This video is brought to you by All-in-One SEO, the one-stop, the best SEO solution for WordPress. WordPress 6.7 is just around the corner. The official release date is 12th of November 2024, which is a couple of weeks after I'm making this video right now. And it's packed with a lot of new features, updates, bug fixes, and quality of life improvements. In this deep dive, I'll go and take a look at all the important features in WordPress 6.7, and there are many features, so pay attention to this video. And you can use the timestamps I've linked in the description of this video that you can see on the screen to navigate to your most favorite features. And I'll take a quick deep dive into all the features. So let's get started with WordPress 6.7. So I've set up two websites here side by side. You can see this is WordPress 6.7 and this one is WordPress 6.6. And in most cases, wherever there are major differences in the UI or in the options, I'm going to just highlight the difference side by side. Let's start with WordPress 6.7. The first important change is in the themes. We have a brand new theme, which is every year. So we have the 2025 theme here. You can see this is how the theme looks like. And if you go to the front end of the website, it'll also show you how it looks like as a default option. Compared to WordPress 6.6, it looks a little bland, to be fair, in my opinion. But yeah, the customization options are still great. So with the customizations, with the styles options, we can definitely make this and change it however you like. So if you go back to WordPress, the admin area of both 6.5 and 6.6, let's talk about the first major difference in the design options, which is the amount of patterns or the new patterns that have been introduced. As you know, patterns are easy ways to design pages and posts and even template paths. So if I go to the post section and just go to add new post here, I'll also go do the same thing in WordPress 6.6, just to give an example. And I'll show the options first with WordPress 6.6. So let's say if I'm creating a post or page or template part, we have a similar UI. If I go here, we can go to patterns. And if you go to explore all patterns, you'll see all these patterns available. We can insert them into posts, pages, template parts, all that good stuff, so that we can actually design a beautiful looking website. Now, the new theme and the new version of WordPress, you'll notice that new patterns emerge. So if I click here, if I click patterns, first of all, you'll observe this thing as well. What happened here? I'll also talk about that. So that's a very useful feature. And if I go to explore all patterns here, we'll start seeing some of these options open up and you'll see new patterns here. So this is one great way to create beautiful designs and layouts. This makes your life easier. And one more thing that you notice here was as soon as I clicked the patterns option, the screen kind of zoomed out here a little bit. This is the new zoom out feature in WordPress 6.7, which is very useful. So this is the button here. If you want to trigger this manually, you can do this while creating pages, while writing. But I think it's most important when designing a page. For example, if you see here, if I go to patterns here, and if let's say I want to add a testimonials pattern here, you can see if I do add this, the entire screen layout is not very cohesive, or I'd say you can't see everything if you add a few different patterns. So if I add a call to action block, and if I add another block, now I have to keep scrolling back and forth to find the patterns and just to get a feel of how the page looks like. In WordPress 6.7, the feature is, I'd say, it just makes your life a little better. So if I add the call to action block here, for example, like this, and if I add one more, let's say, contact option here, let's do this. And if I also add, let's say, a gallery block here or gallery pattern here, now I can instantly see and even customize. So if I can do this, I can still type things. So if I just say instead of got questions, if I say have questions, I can type and change things around while in the zoom out mode. And this gives us a good preview of how the page looks like, and you can just move them around. And if you close the blocks option here, you can still see, and you click here and you have the zoom out option here as well. And if you click here, you can just quickly move the blocks around like this. So I can drag and drop them here. So it makes your life a lot easier when working with a big page. You want to change the design options and some other options as well. Now you have plenty of other options. For example, there's a shuffle mode here, which you can just shuffle to see different layout options for the different or same pattern type. So if you have, let's say, a contact pattern, you can keep shuffling between different contact patterns. Now, I don't know how useful this feature is, but it's pretty cool. If you're just trying something out, you're just testing out, it's a pretty cool feature. And of course, you can delete and move things around. But I think the zoom out feature is a good quality of life improvement, which makes your life easier when creating any kind of blog post. So that's the first major difference between themes, patterns, and the zoom out feature. Let's also take a look at the differences in the editor in the new blog theme editor. So if I go back here and let's say we don't save any changes, and I'll go back here as well in WordPress 6.6. And you know that if you go to appearance, you'll find the editor if you have a editor or a blog based theme. So if I go to the editor here and also in the 6.7 version, we'll be able to see the differences side by side. So if I open this up here, you'll see you have the familiar interface for navigation, styles, pages, templates, and patterns. And the same interface you can find here. If you go to the styles option, we'll notice some differences. So if I go back here to 6.6, if I go to the styles option, you can see the default theme in 6.6 has a few different options for styles and color palettes, but nothing else. But in 6.7, you have predefined styles, which have more in number. You have more patterns or palettes, color palettes to choose from. You also have typography options. So it makes your life easier when changing different things around. For example, if I like this mint purple color, the midnight color, and if I want to go and change the color palette to something else like this, or go back here, and if I want to change the typography manually, all I have to do is come here and select the typography. And it makes our life easier when it comes to choosing the right combination of colors, fonts, and maybe an entire style. The stylebook option also has some extra features. So if I go to stylebook here, you'll see if I click here in the stylebook, we have options for typography, colors, shadows, and layouts in WordPress 6.6. This is 6.6. If I go to the same options here in WordPress 6.7, we also have now background options. You can change background options here as well. And if I go to the options for typography, you have some typesets which you see here. And compared to WordPress 6.6, you see the interface is also slightly different. So again, the same typeset options that I showed you earlier can be selected here as well. And then you have different fonts. Now the font management features in 6.7 have also been improved. You can see all the fonts here. So if I click here, you'll see the font managing a font library here, which is nothing new, but the management or the UI is different. So you can see a lot of different fonts and the variants also of the fonts active. Compared to going here, you won't see big differences like this here. So if I click here, you'll notice some differences in the UI here. Now, you can also go here, select all the different types of fonts and delete fonts, upload fonts, which is nothing new. But one more important change in WordPress 6.7, if you go into the font size presets, and if you go to all these options, so if I go to WordPress 6.6 here and go back to typography, you won't find this option here. Now, inside the font size presets, you have the different presets for small, medium, large, extra large, and extra large, which is great. But inside these options, you'll find this new feature called fluid typography. So what this does is makes your website a lot more responsive, especially the typography more responsive, and can also specify custom fluid values. So it's already defined here in WordPress 6.7's default theme 2025. So a lot of these font sizes will have this already turned on fluid typography and custom fluid values, which is a new feature which makes typography more responsive depending on the viewport here. So you see here in the small option, it's not enabled. So I'll enable this here as well. And to give you a demonstration quickly, pay attention to all the headlines here and how they resize or scale based on when I change the viewport. So if I change this around, you'll see the typography gets smaller and smaller compared to or depending on how wide the viewport is. And this is what makes the readability and the UX or the user experience of your website a lot better, because the font is actually more, I'd say, in tune with the amount of size of the page. So it makes your typography more, look in more synchronous with the actual viewport. So this is again a pretty cool feature in WordPress 6.7. Another important change in WordPress 6.7 is predefined styles for group blocks and columns. So right now I have a column block here or columns selected here, and you'll see in the style options, I have the predefined style options here. If I go to WordPress 6.6, these options won't be here because there's no options available in 6.6, only in 6.7. So here inside the columns block, once I select the columns block, if I go to style options here, I have predefined styles to choose from. So you can see I can hover over them and I'll instantly see, hey, what kind of predefined style will be applied to the columns if I just select it. So if I see here, it'll turn it gray. And if I do this, it'll turn it pink, and you have yellow, and you have purple, and other color options. Now, these might vary from style to style or different, color options. I haven't tested this out too much, but this is a welcome change to quickly change things around and see what kind of color themes suits your, theme and patterns and the entire page. So it makes your job easier when designing a beautiful looking page. That's another big difference in WordPress 6.7. So the next important feature in WordPress 6.7 is refined data views when looking at patterns or pages. Anything inside the editor has more options to sort and filter through. Let me demonstrate. So this is WordPress 6.6. If I go to Appearance and the editor, you know that we can look at patterns here. So if I go to patterns, I can see all the patterns here. And I have some filtering options here. So I can change the layout, sort by, fields and items per page. So these options have already existed. If I go to WordPress 6.7 and do the same thing, I go to the editor here, and if I go to patterns, once it loads, you'll see I have this option, which is availability, or the option to change the table or the viewport from view to, I say, table to and grid, or switch between table and grid. And you also have options here. And the big option here is the preview size. So we can change this around and change the density around. We also have some sorting options. So in total, we have some more options to change things up and filter this. You can also enable and disable properties. So that's one more thing. And the same thing applies to pages and other kinds of patterns here as well. So if I go back to here, and if I say go to pages here, and pages, inside pages, let's say this is 6.7. If I go to 6.6, just a comparison. So I'll go back here, I'll go to pages, and you see these are pages here, and I can use the filtering options. Again, the similar options that I just demonstrated. But inside 6.7, we have the same options here. We also have additional options for density and some additional options. We can change the order around and do more stuff. So if I change from this to, let's say, a table format, we can see the table here. If I change here, I can again change things around, and I also can change it to a list format. So this is also a good format to have. And I think I'm assuming that as the block editor, or not block editor, but the editor and the block-based themes become more popular, this will become the default option or default way to interact with pages and change pages around. So again, getting used to it is important. So again, more options here, change the density around, change the preview size, and change stuff around. This is the change in data view inside WordPress 6.7. One more important feature to WordPress 6.7 is the refinements to query loop. Now, query loop is a block in the block editor, but it's a very powerful, useful feature for developers, and I'd say even for beginners alike. So if you want to, let's say, pull all your pages, all your posts on a single page, demonstrating that, hey, these are all the posts on my site, then the query loop is something that's triggered. So let me demonstrate the features here. So first, I'll start with WordPress 6.6 here. And what I can do is just type here and use the query loop block here. Just create a query loop. And I'll start blank, and I have the options here. Now, if I click here, this will trigger and display all the posts on my site in a loop. Now, the more important change to WordPress 6.7 are the options that you see here. So you can see here the layout options, settings, post type, inherit, query, all these options. Let's go to WordPress 6.7 and notice the difference. There are a few different things that I noticed here. So if I start blank again and do the same thing, now we'll see we'll have some additional options and also some refinements to the UI, which makes our life easier and makes it simpler. So if you go here, you have a lot of different options to choose from. Too much description, too much text here. You don't understand what's going on. And then you can't even do a lot of things here, change here. But this is a more simplified interface. If you want to choose post here, choose post, choose page, refinement options, and everything else. And you can also use the filters here. So not too many features added here, but the refinements actually make it easier for you to use the query block loop and just create different kind of patterns. And these are not patterns, but yeah, different pages which use or display a lot of different pages or posts on your site. One more huge change in WordPress 6.7 is the support for HEIF and HEIC image formats. HEIF stands for High Efficiency Image Format, and HEIC stands for High Efficiency Image Compression. Why do you care and why should you care? Because that's the format that most modern smartphones use, because it's an efficient format to store high resolution images. It works with iPhone by default, and even my Samsung phone supports this feature. Unless you turn it off, most phones will take pictures in HEIF or HEIC format. Now, the problem with WordPress 6.6 is that it doesn't support it out of the box. WordPress 6.7 does, and what it does is when you upload an HEIC or HEIF image, it'll convert it to the JPG feature. Let me demonstrate, but not really, and I'll explain why. So if I go to WordPress 6.7 here, technically it should support the format here, but let me explain the requirements to that, without which this feature will not work. So to test if your installation will support this, once you upgrade to WordPress 6.7, you have to go to the site health option here. So go to site health from tools options here, tools, site health, and go to info option here. And inside info, you should go for media handling option. And ImageMagick should be installed on your server. Now, since I'm using Playground, so it doesn't support a lot of extensions that normal hosts would do. Normal hosts do support this. So if you see here that you have ImageMagick installed, image version, and then ImageMagick formats, then you will see the HEIF or HEIC versions there. That means the thing that I'm going to demonstrate should work for you. And how it should look like on a regular server is something like this. This is how it should look like. Image mat supporting format formats, so many different formats. And most importantly, you should see the HEIC format here, which means that most images that you upload will work. Now, since I don't have the HEIC format, I'll demonstrate how it doesn't work, and it will work the same way right now in WordPress 6.6 and 6.7. But if I take this to a real server, this should work. Now, to set some context, here's an image of my cat that I just clicked for this demonstration, and he's looking very cute. And this is a JPG image, by the way. So if I just bring the screen here, it's a JPG image, and I converted this to a JPG from the original HEIC. So if I drag the HEIC version here and let go, you'll notice that even in Windows, it doesn't work. You can see the HEIF decoder needs to be installed. So even Windows can't open the file right now. If I close this, and if I go to the media library and I say, let's go to the library, I can drag and drop image here. And if I drag the JPG option, then it'll work. But if I drag the HEIC version, now currently this is WordPress 6.7, so it should not work or give me an error or show me a blank screen. This is what happens. So this is the default behavior right now because my server is not currently set up. Let's also test this out in WordPress 6.6 just to demonstrate how it works. So I'll go to the same options here, media files, and just upload the HEIC version directly. And you can see it uploads it. Let's go to the library and we should see the same option. It rejects the image, or basically the image doesn't show up. So that's the current state of affairs for this feature. Since Playground doesn't have image magic support, I can't demonstrate it live, but hopefully when a live server, or when I update my website to WordPress 6.7, I'll be able to demonstrate this feature live. Now, just to clarify, if you upload HEIC images to WordPress 6.7, when you have image magic support, the actual image that the visitors will see will not be HEIF or HEIC. It'll actually convert the format to the JPG format. And the reason for that is the HEIF format or HEIC format doesn't have great browser compatibility. So your users might see broken images on their website or your website when they see images. So the images will actually be converted to JPG. But if you go to the attachment page from WordPress 6.7, then you'll still see the original image. So if you, let's say, are a photographer, you're giving people away images for download, then they will be, your users will be able to download the HEIF or HEIC images, and you'll still be able to demonstrate the pictures using the JPG format. So you change, very important update, because many people now block from their smartphones and just take pictures from the smartphone. So it was welcome change in WordPress 6.7. Now, since we're on the topic of images, WordPress 6.7 has some amazing new features when it comes to images, galleries, interactivity, and some other features. Let me quickly demonstrate. So I've just opened up a new post in WordPress 6.7, and what I'll do is just add an image block, right? So I'll just type in image, and you know that on an image block, you can drag and drop a single image, and you can upload that image directly to your gallery, and that image will be uploaded. But WordPress 6.7 has a new trick up its sleeve. What you can do is select multiple images and upload them directly, and it'll automatically create a gallery block. So if I drag 8 images, which I have selected here, and let them go, all of these images will be instantly uploaded to directly my website. And also you'll notice that if I open the preview options, list view option here, a gallery block is automatically created. Now, another cool feature is the update to an Interactivity API, which helps you create lightboxes with gallery blocks easily. So if you click any of these images, and if you go to the link options here, you'll see link to image file, link to attachment page, but this is the third option, expand on click. So this creates basically a lightbox effect. So if I click on this, and I'll have to do this for all images. So I'll quickly do that, and I'll demonstrate how the lightbox effect or lightbox actually works when used on actual post. So let me just quickly do this. I'll also talk about one more interesting feature when it comes to images, which is also very powerful and important for user experience. So I've just selected all the images, and I've just expanded on click or changed the options to expand on click for all the images. Let's publish this post, and I'll click the view post here. And this is a beautiful gallery block. And now if I hover over it, you'll see a new interactive option here. So if I click on this, I can see a lightbox option here, and that looks beautiful. The animation is pretty smooth. It looks pretty. So this is, again, you don't have to do anything else. No plugins required. You can instantly do this. Now, one more important change to WordPress 6.7 is how lazy loading is improved, basically, because WordPress does lazy loading automatically. But the improvements to WordPress 6.7 with lazy loading is setting adding the auto image size tag to lazy loaded images. Let me actually just demonstrate. Now, the feature, how it works is basically when images are lazy loaded, if the size is defined as auto, that means the layout will be loaded smoothly and it'll improve the user experience. And how we can confirm that this is happening is just open the console. So if I go to the console here and I just select, let's say, an image that is just bottom of the, let's say, above the fold or below the fold. So if I click here, you'll see that I can demonstrate this. You can see here, I'll try and zoom in on the screen right now. So this is the point I'm trying to highlight. So just pay attention there, and I'll zoom in right now. So image loading lazy. So this is a lazy loaded image, but you'll also see some interesting options here. So now I'll hover over the important bits. This is the thing I'm talking about, the auto. So this auto is now being added to WordPress images automatically. That means the size is defined automatically, and it should improve the experience of the user when lazy loaded images are being loaded on the front end. So that's one more improvement to the WordPress 6.7 experience when it comes to gallery and images. So WordPress 6.7 is also doing a lot of improvements to the design layouts. You know that if you're using blocks, different blocks don't have, or all the blocks don't have similar design options. For example, buttons don't support background colors, and other blocks don't support border radius, and columns don't have similar options or border options. But WordPress 6.7 is bringing a lot of improvements to the table with a lot of different blocks. Now, since there are a lot of different improvements, I can't go through them, all of them, otherwise the video will be 1 hour long. So I'll take the screenshot and paste on the screen, and just you wait for a few seconds here so that you can actually read it and pause it, maybe take a screenshot if you need to, and just go through all the improvements. There are plenty of improvements, the button improvements, category, column, comments, gallery, group, heading, image, so many different improvements to the design options. So hopefully that was enough seconds for you to take a screenshot or just take note of all the different improvements to the design options in WordPress 6.7. I think this is a pretty good change in WordPress 6.7 with related design options. Let's also talk about one of the most powerful, important changes coming to WordPress 6.7. One of the most important changes coming to WordPress 6.7 is a WordPress implementation of custom fields. And WordPress calls it content model. Now, content model or custom fields is hard to explain without getting too technical. But what you can think of it as a dynamic feature or dynamic content which is not restricted to just pages and posts, and you can create any kind of dynamic content on your site. So what I'll do is I'll just go through the demonstration and try to explain it as simple as possible how this works. So we have this feature here, which is not actually baked into WordPress right now. It's available as a plugin right now on GitHub. So you can see automatic create content model. And we have to download this plugin right now, and then we have to just install it on our WordPress website. So I'll click and download the latest release. Let me just download this. I should trigger a pop-up or a download button. And you have to install this plugin for now. So I can see this here. I'll just install or download this. And I have this completed. I'll go back to my WordPress website here. I'll go back to the dashboard. I'll go to plugins. I'll go to add new plugin. And I'll upload this plugin here, which will add this option here. So let's add it here. Install. And it should take a few seconds for the plugins to install. It's automatically installed. Let's also activate it. Now, how this plugin works is it allows us to create dynamic content models. So you can see the content models come up here. So you can see all content models, add new content models. What is a model? Let me explain. So let's say if you are creating a page for the team of your website, or let's say the team that runs your business. Now, usually you'll have to go here, select a pattern, create the team, but this works well, you can design the page. But what about client work, right? A lot of clients, when they try to do this, they might mess up the entire website. So you want them, you want to create a way that they can add new team members, remove team members without messing up the layout of the site. So you use or create a content model so that they can create new employees or team members, and then the entire thing is very seamless to them. Now, this is not a completely baked feature perfectly, but I'll give you a demonstration of how it should work so that the concept is clear to you. So, since we are creating the content model, right? So what we should name this? We should name this, let's say, team member. Now, this is not the only way to use this. You can use this for real estate listings. You can use this for products. Technically, WordPress or WooCommerce is an implementation of custom fields. You can do this anything. So as an example, you're running a book website. So you can create something like books. So how about this? I just change this to books. So, right. So I'll just change this to book title. So this is a field. So you can do this for book reviews, movie reviews, any kind of website that is not limited to pages and posts, but needs some kind of other kind of meta information to work. So for example, books have titles, they have ISBN numbers, they have genres, they have authors, all this information, which is basically metadata about the book. So I'll take this an example and create a book title. This is the metadata. So what kind of information would I want to save about a book? I might say, hey, number of pages, right? So I'll just keep designing the page for now, number of pages. And I'll go and say, hey, let's say genre, right? I hope that's how you say it. Then you also have, let's say, the price. Of course, that's important. Then also, let's say the author, right? And we also will say ratings. So we've created this content model. Now what you have to do is just make sure that the information here or all these fields here are connected to custom fields so that we can actually customize them. So you can see here, when you select the content model, we have the book title, singular label, plural label, and everything else. But most importantly, if we go to the paragraphs here, now we can add attribute bindings. So basically, what will this information refer to when we talk about a specific book or we create a book? So if we click here, now we can add a binding name. So I can say, hey, number of pages, let's say that, and let's save the field. So now this information, number of pages, will refer to this custom field inside. And if I go here, I can do the same thing. I can say genre, and I'll go here and I'll say price, and do the same thing multiple times. Let me quickly go through it. And I'll say rating. So now basically we have created this entire thing, right, where all this information is actually customized or saved as a custom content model. Basically it's saved, the information will be saved for every book we create as a custom field. So if we look at the content model here, now we have all these options. We can go here and we can see all the different block options, manage bindings. If you go to manage bindings, we can change this around. But let me quickly demonstrate how this works. So I'll save this. Basically, we have saved this. And if we go back now, we'll see we have book titles as a custom menu. So content models, we have book title. If I go to book titles here, we can create new book titles. If I go here, we won't have any book titles. If I create, now I can create new books. So I'll close this. And now what I can do is I can actually type a name of a title. So I'll just say I have a book I can see here, Spirit of Cricket. I'll just type it here. Number of pages, I'll say, let's say it has 250. Genre, it says sports. And the price, let's say, let's do 999 Indian rupees. Author, I can't see the name of the author, so I'll just try and guess it. Mike. I hope that's the right spelling. And let's say 4.3. And we'll save this post here. And if we go and view this, view book title, we should be able to see it on the front end like this. Now, this is not a post, but this information basically is not hard coded on the post, but coming from custom fields. Now, this is very powerful information or powerful thing to understand. If we go back to the dashboard, let me create another one and I'll give you a simple example of how this can work. Let's add one more book title here. And I'll just find here. I'll do one more thing. Let the page load. So I'll say, this is another book. And don't worry if you don't understand this word. This is a kind of an English word. Yeah, I see this book on my bookshelf. I can't read the author. So number of page, I'll do, let's say 184. Genre, business. And price, let's do 399. Author, can't say. And ratings, let's do 4. So I've just published this 2 different books. So if I go here, now you might be thinking, hey, how is this very important? How do I make sure? How is this useful? Well, the power comes when you create these content models for different things on your website, and also for when you actually want to use it. As I was giving an example of that, hey, if you are, let's say, have a Teams page on your site. So let's say, for example, you have a book review site and you have this kind of a content model created for books, and you want to showcase all the different books that you have reviewed on your website. Now, imagine how difficult that would be if you want to do this manually. And specifically, if you want to change things around, you want to move things around and you add more fields, this will become a nightmare to manage as you review hundreds and hundreds of books. So this is where this power comes into play. And let me give you a quick example of how this would work in the real world. So let's say, for example, if I'm creating a new page, which might be, hey, all books I've reviewed. So if I just actually go to this page and I say, hey, all my reviews. And if I create the title like this, so I'll close the patterns here, all my books, right? So now the typical way you would do this is you would design one block, maybe you make it a reusable block, then go again and again. But think about this. We don't do this when we use this for pages and posts. We use a query block because the query block can actually fetch all the posts and pages which are dynamically linked or have the data saved in the database. So when we create the content model or when we use the custom fields option here, basically the content model, we can do the same thing with the query block for that model as well. So if I just use the query block here, and this is not current perfect implementation, so I can choose, or not the pattern, let's start blank, and I'll choose the image, date, and title just for now. I'll just choose this one. Now, If you go here, you'll see the post type is currently set to post, but now you'll see the book title also show up here. So if I select book title, now you see both my books that I've actually reviewed are showing up here. So once I design this, right? Once I design this, for example, I can go back to the home page and I can go back to, let's say, let me open up the options here inside the query loop. I'll say the post template, and let's see if we can change this to a grid layout, right? I don't remember where the option actually is. So let's try and find out where the option is. And if we can change this to the grid layout, then it'll make our life easier. If not, that still works. So basically the idea is, now if I design this, because right now the options are not perfect. Basically, query loop doesn't support a lot of different options here. So you might not have the option to showcase, let's say, the excerpt of the review or the meta information we just saved, the number of pages. But hopefully when the query loop is optimized, or I say updated in the future versions of WordPress, then we'll see more options available to us to display here in the front end. So basically you can have, hey, a photo of the book here, the ISBN code, all the information displayed directly and dynamically inside WordPress. And that's the power which I'm going to talk about, or which is, I'd say, useful and very powerful feature. And it's basically the start of something very new, because this has not been available in WordPress without use of external plugins for the longest time. So I think it's a very big feature change and very big improvement in WordPress 6.7. So those are all the major and big changes coming to WordPress 6.7. As I said, right now it's in beta, but the official release date is 12th of November 2024. Make sure to update and subscribe to our channel for more updates about WordPress and what all things are coming to WordPress 6.7. My name is Yuvraj, you're watching W Beginner, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.